The email that ended my career arrived at 7:42 a.m. on a Monday. I was halfway through my first coffee, half listening to a podcast, half dreading the week ahead. The subject line looked harmless. Quick call from HR Lightica Studios, my dream company, the one I'd been grinding toward for 6 years. I'd been through 3 rounds of interviews with them for a senior brand designer role. A role that, if I got it, would take me far away from the soul-draining agency where my current boss thought design meant make the logo bigger. I smiled, heart jumping. Quick call meant good news, right? I clicked. Hi Zoe, we appreciate your time and interest. However, due to serious concerns raised during our reference checks and recent social media review, we have decided not to move forward. Please refrain from using Lightica Studios in your portfolio or professional branding, effective immediately. We wish you the best. HR, I reread it 3 times. Concerns, reference checks, social media review, my chest tightened. I clicked my notifications. 2 new emails from smaller studios I'd been interviewing with. Same tone, same vague wording. In light of new information, after reviewing additional materials, we have decided to withdraw our offer. I stared at the screen, some part of my brain quietly noting that the coffee had gone cold. New information? I opened my LinkedIn. My inbox was flooded with messages I didn't understand. This isn't professional, Zoe. Sorry the industry is beneath you, you didn't have to be so rude about it. Wow. Unsubbed. My stomach turned. I opened my Instagram design account. There in my DMs was a screenshot of a Twitter thread, anonymous account, my profile picture. My name, my career on fire. At Zovisuals. Designers who work for exposure deserve the clients they get. I don't work for peanuts and neither should any self-respecting creative. If your budget is under 5,000, don't even talk to me. I never wrote that. Ever. The thread continued. Screenshots of messages where I called small businesses pathetic. Replies from people saying they'd worked with me and I'd been entitled, unreliable, impossible. Half the names were familiar, half weren't. My phone buzzed, it was my boss. Hey Zoe, he said when I picked up. His voice was tight in a way I'd never heard. We need to talk when you get in, something's come up. I walked to work in a haze, the city blurring past. Every time I checked my phone, the notifications had multiplied. By the time I reached the office, my legs felt like rubber. My boss called me straight into a meeting room. HR was there. A printed stack of papers sat on the table. They didn't make small talk. We received some emails about your conduct, HR said carefully. From clients, former colleagues, even another studio. She slid the stack toward me. Printouts of emails supposedly from me. Subject lines like, "You're too small for my portfolio. If you can't afford good work, don't waste my time. Honestly, you're lucky I even responded." I scanned one. The writing sounded like someone trying to imitate my tone and getting it just wrong enough. My signature was at the bottom, except I hadn't sent it. None of this is mine, I said. Someone's faking this. HR's expression didn't change. This one came from our own email server, she said, tapping a page. From your account, I blinked. That's not possible. I didn't send. You changed your password last month, my boss cut in. Remember, I had, at the company's request. Someone must have had access before I did. We've had 3 clients terminate contracts this week, HR said. Citing unprofessional communication, my boss sighed. Zoe, we like your work, but the damage, he spread his hands helplessly. We have to protect the company's reputation. I knew what was coming before he said it. We're letting you go, HR said. Effective immediately. I drove home in silence, sat on my couch in silence, scrolled through the smoking crater of my online presence in silence, and then, finally, sound came out of me. Not a scream, a whisper. Who did this? My phone buzzed again. A text from my best friend Nina. Hey, heard about Lightica. You okay? Call me if you need anything, Blackheart. I stared at her name for a long time. We'd been friends since college, shared flat broke years, shared cheap wine and big dreams and late-night pitches. She knew every detail of my interviews. I'd practiced my Lightica presentation on her. She'd helped tidy my portfolio. She'd been so supportive, too supportive. A memory flickered, her on my couch 2 weeks ago, laughing as she said, God, with your portfolio and my networking skills, we'd be unstoppable. My stomach dropped. I opened my email. Searched for a sender address in one of the fake messages. Found it, a throwaway Gmail, but the recovery phone number attached to it was painfully familiar. Nina's. That was the moment I understood. My best friend hadn't just watched my career burn, she'd lit the match. The next week felt like attending my own funeral. Not the kind with flowers and speeches, the kind where you're awake inside the coffin, listening to people talk about you in past tense. I tried to fix it at first. I messaged Lytica's HR. I DM'd the smaller studios. I posted a long, careful statement on my design Instagram. I've become aware of fake messages being sent in my name. I'm investigating. Please contact me directly if you've received anything out of character. The post got likes, comments, a few "we believe you" messages, but the studios? Silence. In this industry, no one has time to distinguish between real scandals and manufactured ones. There's always another designer in the inbox. I went to coffee with an old mentor, Elise, who worked at a larger agency. She listened quietly as I explained. I showed her the screenshots, the emails, my frantic attempts to respond. She stirred her tea, thinking. "Zoe," she said finally, "I believe you." The relief was so sharp it hurt. "But," she added gently, "believing you and being able to hire you are two different things. Right now your name is radioactive. Because someone impersonated me," I said. "I know." Her eyes were kind but firm. "But no client wants to gamble on maybe it's fake. They want clean." Her words landed like small, measured blows. "You have two options," she continued. "You can spend a year trying to scrub your name, or you can start over under a different one." "Start over?" I echoed. She shrugged. "Pseudonyms aren't uncommon. Freelancers do it. Agencies rebrand all the time. You're a designer. Reinvent yourself." It felt like being told to erase my own face to keep working. On the train home, I scrolled through my chat history with Nina. There she was, reacting to my meltdown texts when Lytica rejected me. Me, "They said concerns from references." Nina, "WTF? That makes no sense. I'm so sorry. People are trash." Me, "I don't understand. I did everything right." Nina, "You did. They're idiots. Come over, I'll cook." Come over, cry on the shoulder that pushed you. I didn't answer. Instead, I started digging. The fake Twitter account using my name, created using a burner email. The Instagram comments saying, "I worked with Zoe and she was awful." A couple were real accounts. Most were bots or brand new profiles following exactly one person, Nina. I checked her LinkedIn. She'd suddenly updated her headline. Brand and Visual Identity Specialist Experience with Lytica Studios, Kinfield Labs, Bauer Digital. All the places I'd interviewed at in the last 3 months. Names I had only ever said aloud to her. My heart pounded. I pulled up her design portfolio, new case studies, beautiful decks, clean mock-ups, exactly the kind of work I do. In fact, the thumbnail for one Lytica-inspired rebrand was literally a color palette I had agonized over for a week. A palette I'd shown her. "Can I borrow some ideas?" she joked then. Kidding. Mostly. It wasn't theft in the obvious way, no copy-paste of my entire site, but the bones were the same. My composition style, my hierarchy, my exact phrasing in a concept rationale paragraph. She was wearing my creative skin. And while my name burned in group chats and email threads, her stayed clean. Nina, hardworking, Nina, reliable Nina, kind of like Zoe, but easier to work with. I closed my laptop, sat in the dark. If I confronted her now, I'd get tears, denials. "We can fix it, we can fix it." She'd be careful, she'd wipe things, she'd spin. No, I needed proof, something undeniable. Something that showed her not just stealing my work or sabotaging interviews, something that showed her using my identity. And I had a way to get it. Because while Nina was better at people, I was better at systems. The first thing I did was disappear. Not in the dramatic delete all accounts way, quietly. I stopped posting, stopped replying immediately, stopped updating my public portfolio. Let Nina think she'd successfully knocked me off the board. Meanwhile, I built a new one, under a new name. Elise's words stuck with me, "You're a designer. Reinvent yourself." So I did. I bought a new domain, set up a new Gmail, created a new Behance under a minimal username, M. Vale Studio. Vale, a word that meant valley but also farewell. I uploaded my best work, carefully stripping any traceable metadata. I wrote new case studies. I refined the tone, Less hungry young designer, more quiet expert. Then I asked Elise for a favor. I'm going to apply somewhere under this new name, I said. Just to see if it's me or the stink around Zoe, that's the problem. She hooked me up with a recruiter who owed her a favor. 2 weeks later, I had my answer. Hi, M. Vale, we love your portfolio. Can you do a quick intro call? No scandal, no recent concerns. Just pure evaluation of the work. It wasn't me that was toxic. It was my name. I didn't accept the interviews yet. I wasn't done being Zoe. Not while Nina was still using my corpse as a career ladder. Using the access I still had to her laptop from late night helped me fix my resume sessions months ago. I logged into her email. A risk? Absolutely. But at this point, what was left to lose? I set up a subtle mail filter. Any email containing my full name, Zoe Hartman, would automatically forward a copy to my new account. Then I waited. 3 days later, I got one. From careers@lyticastudios.com to Nina Alvarez. Hi Nina, thank you again for the referral to Zoe. We understand it didn't work out with her application, but we'd still love to keep in touch with you. Your sample deck was impressive. If you're ever open to contract work, please let us know. Art director, Lytica Studios. I read it 3 times. Referral, she had referred me. Nina had positioned herself as the gateway. The helpful friend bringing in a talented designer she could vouch for, then pulled that vouching away. Oh, Zoe? Yeah, she's talented but kind of difficult. Here, look at this deck instead, her deck, built from my structure. Submitted under her name, using my downfall as context. My hands went cold. Next came an email from a mid-sized studio I'd interviewed with. Nina, thank you for bringing the situation with Zoe to our attention. We've decided to pause all discussions with her moving forward. However, we were impressed by your professionalism and would be happy to explore opportunities with you in the future. Pause all discussions with her, me. Every forwarded email was a tiny gravestone. Here lies a chance. Here lies another. Every time, Nina was there in the thread, sweet, concerned, subtly undermining. I hate saying this, but I just want to be honest since I recommended her. She's been under a lot of pressure. It's probably just stress, no outright character assassination. Just enough doubt, just enough poison. I spent a long night staring at those emails, the forwarded trail of my own execution. By dawn, I had made 2 decisions. 1. I was going to stop trying to clear my name in a system already poisoned. 2. I was going to let Nina climb as high as she could, using the identity she'd built off mine. Because the higher she climbed in my skin, the further she'd fall when I pulled it off her. To expose someone, you can't chase them. You step in front of them. I knew Nina's dream as well as my own. She wanted Lytica. Badly, maybe more than I did. She loved their brand, their prestige, the way people's eyes lit up when she said the name. She'd applied once, got rejected, spent a month sulking about it. I'm not shiny enough yet, she'd said then. Need bigger projects first. Now she finally had them. Mine, the more I dug, the clearer her trajectory became. She was funneling my burned bridges into her opportunities. Learnings from a failed referral in one thread, just want to help fix what went wrong in another, always appearing responsible. Helpful, plugged in. Her portfolio view count was climbing. Her LinkedIn filled with comments from my former interviewers. Great insights. Loved your take on brand structure. Would love to collaborate. My rage cooled into something surgical. If she wanted in so badly, I'd open the door for her, just in a different building. As M. Vale, I took the Lytica recruiter call. I kept my camera off. I spoke calmly, confidently, talked through my process, my case studies. The same work I'd once presented as Zoe, but refined. They loved it. Within a week, I had an offer. Not as a junior, not as a maybe. As lead brand architect on a new sub-label they were launching. It wasn't the position I'd originally gone for. It was better. There was one catch. They didn't know I was Zoe. We did the whole process under Mara Vale, a cleaned-up version of the alias. I gave them a new Gmail, a new number. Never once mentioned my old scandals. They didn't ask. HR did the usual background checks. They came back clean. Of course they did. They were looking for dirt on Mara, not Zoe. The week before my official start date, I got an onboarding email. Buried in the upcoming projects section, a line caught my eye. We're also exploring contracting an external designer for social campaigns. Candidate. Nina Alvarez, referred via existing contact. Pending review by new lead brand architect. Lead brand architect, me, the same job she'd been inching toward via my corpse. I stared at the screen, feeling something almost like awe. She had no idea. To her, I had vanished. A cautionary tale. A tragic meltdown. She thought she was walking into a world that had chosen her instead. She didn't know she was walking into my world, one where I controlled the brief. The vendors, the contracts, the referrals, and eventually the narrative. I closed my laptop, heartbeat loud in the quiet apartment. This wasn't going to be a simple gotcha confrontation. Nina was too slippery for that. She'd cry, she'd twist, she'd find a way to make herself the victim. No, if I was going to do this, it had to be in a way that left no question. To Lightica, to our friends, to the studios, that she hadn't just sabotaged me, she'd impersonated me, used my work, worn my skin, and that I hadn't disappeared, I'd evolved. Into the one person she never expected me to be. The woman who could decide, quietly, professionally, smiling through a glass-walled conference room, whether or not Nina Alvarez ever worked in this industry again. My first day at Lightica as Mara Vale felt like wearing a costume tailored from my own skin. The badge they handed me had my new name on it. Same face in the photo, same nerves under the surface. Different label. "Welcome aboard," my new art director, Simon, said, shaking my hand. "We've been needing someone at your level for a while." At your level, the phrase stung in the best way. 6 months earlier, I'd been too risky to touch. Now, under a new name, I was needed. He walked me through the open plan office. Exposed brick, plants everywhere, quiet little focus nooks. It was everything I'd imagined when I first tried to get in here as Zoe. "This is your pod," he said, gesturing to a cluster of desks. "You'll lead the new sublabel. Social campaigns, brand refreshes, sometimes we bring in external designers to help." My heart gave a small, calculated kick. External designers. Later that afternoon, an onboarding doc landed in my inbox. Potential contractors for Q3, Q4. Jordan H. Motion, Kim S. Illustration, Nina Alvarez Social Design / brand support, referred via previous contact, there it was. Her name in black and white in my project sheet. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened a blank email to HR. "Hi, I see we've got a list of potential external designers. Before I sign off, could you share any previous context on these folks? Have we interacted with them before? Any flags, good or bad?" M. Vale, I held my breath after I sent it. An hour later, an answer. "We've never directly worked with Jordan or Kim. As for Nina, we had some communication when she referred a candidate last year, Zoe Hartman. That situation was messy. Happy to forward the thread if helpful. Messy, forward it." "Please do." They did. I reread the emails I already knew by heart, now seeing them from Lightica's side. How Nina had framed me as brilliant but difficult. How she'd inserted herself as the voice of reason. How she'd, reluctantly, shared examples of my supposed rudeness. They hadn't seen those messages as sabotage. They'd seen them as due diligence. I closed the thread and opened a new tab. From M. Vale to Nina Alvarez. "Hi Nina, I'm leading a new initiative at Lightica, and your name came up as a potential collaborator. Are you open to a small paid test project for social design? If it's a good fit, it could lead to a longer partnership." Best, Myra, I deleted 3 more aggressive versions of that email first. This one was neutral, professional. Exactly the kind of message she would have killed to receive from someone at Lightica. She replied in 6 minutes. "Hi Mara, yes, absolutely, I'd love to. I've admired Lightica's work for a long time. Happy to do a test project, just send over the brief." Best, Nina, I leaned back in my chair. Phase 1 wasn't exposing her, it was letting her expose herself. I drafted a brief that was eerily similar to the one I'd been given in my second round interview for Lightica as Zoe. A hypothetical product launch, same kind of audience, same constraints. I gave different product names. Tweaked some copy, left the structure intact. If she'd stolen my deck for her portfolio, I wanted to see if she'd do it again for a real Lightica project. Before I hit send, I added one more thing. A clause in the test contract, boilerplate but highlighted. Designer warrants that all work submitted is original, created solely by designer, and has not been previously used, published, or submitted in any form for any other client, employer, or application. just in case. Then I sent it. She wrote back, "Looks great. I already have some ideas, deadline works for me." I stared at that little winking face. Yeah, I thought, I bet you do. Nina turned in her test project 3 days early. Classic overachiever move. Show them you're hungry. I opened the file alone in a small conference room, heart pounding a little harder than it should have. It wasn't just work I was about to look at. It was a mirror. Slides loaded one by one, cover page, strong typography, clean use of negative space. My style, color palette, muted jewel tones with a single electric accent. Same logic I'd used in my original Lightica pitch. Ground the brand in maturity, give it a bolt of energy. Layouts, product on left, bold statement on right, microcopy tucked underneath. Exactly. Like mine. Half the slide titles were paraphrased versions of lines I remembered writing at 2 a.m. the night before my original interview. From awareness to affinity. The quiet confidence of a brand that knows itself. One line was copy-pasted. I knew that because I still had my old deck saved on a hard drive, under a folder I hadn't opened since the night my rejection email arrived. I pulled it up, put them side by side. They weren't pixel-perfect clones. That would have been too obvious. But the bones, identical. She'd taken my structure, my rationale, my design language, and poured her own name over it like a glaze. I screenshotted everything. Then I walked down the hall to Simon's office. "Got a minute?" I asked. He waved me in. "What do you think of this?" I said, spinning my laptop toward him, Nina's deck on the screen. He clicked through it, nodding. "Strong. Feels very Lightica-adjacent, actually. Did she work somewhere with a similar style?" "She didn't," I said. "But I did." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I opened my old deck next to hers. Same slide framework. Same section titles, nearly identical phrasing and key parts. His eyes widened. "Oh, yeah," I said. "This is your old interview deck," he said slowly. "From when I applied as Zoe," I confirmed. "The interview that, according to HR, was too risky because of concerning feedback." He rubbed his jaw. "How would she have gotten this?" he asked. "She didn't get this file," I said. "She watched me build it, on my couch. On my computer. Months before she started helping me with my applications." He leaned back. "This is bad." I nodded. "I can also show you forwarded emails from her account to various studios, including this one, undermining me as a candidate." "Can you prove it's her?" he asked. I opened my mail, showed him the forwarded threads, full headers, originating IP addresses, all roads leading back to Nina. Simon exhaled slowly. "I'll loop in HR and legal," he said. "We need to be very careful with this." "Careful how?" I asked. "She's not an employee." "No, but she's a potential contractor, and accusing someone of this is serious. We need to make sure there's no wiggle room." I pointed to the contract clause. "She signed that all work was original and never used elsewhere," I said. "We have my time-stamped original deck. We have her test deck. We have the referral emails where she used my name as context. And we have the sabotage emails." He nodded. "Okay," he said. "We bring her in for a portfolio review. We ask her about her process. We record the session. Let her talk. If she admits to using previous work or mentions you, we've got a full picture." He paused. "Are you going to tell her who you are?" he asked quietly. "Not at first," I said. He searched my face. "Are you sure you're okay doing this?" No, I thought. I was heartbroken. I missed the version of Nina who'd held my hair back while I puked before my first real pitch. The Nina who cheered when I landed my first freelance job. But that Nina didn't exist anymore, if she ever had. "I'm okay enough," I said. He nodded. "We'll schedule for Friday," he said. "You, me, HR legal. She thinks it's a standard review with the new lead. We'll see what she says." As I left his office, my phone buzzed, a message from Nina. "Hey, just wanted to say thanks again for the chance. This project felt oddly familiar, haha, like I've been here before. In a good way. Hope it's what you're looking for." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I typed, deleted, retyped, then finally hit send, looking forward to talking through it on Friday. I added the smiley on purpose. Let her feel safe. Until it was time for the truth. Friday at 2 p.m., I sat in a glass-walled conference room with Simon, HR, and a quiet woman from legal named Priya. We positioned the chairs so that from Nina's perspective, it would look like a casual panel. Nothing threatening, just interested faces. Remember, Priya said softly, we're here to listen. Ask about her process. Let her answers lead. I nodded, palms damp. This wasn't about a dramatic reveal for my satisfaction. This was about making sure that when the mask came off, there was no doubt about what was underneath. A few minutes later, Nina appeared in the doorway. She looked exactly the same and completely different. Same messy bun. Same oversized denim jacket. Same bright eyes that used to light up when we talked about design, but I saw her differently now. She stepped in, nervously smoothing her shirt. You must be Mara, she said, smiling at me. So nice to meet you in person, I smiled back. You too, Nina, I said. Thanks for coming in. She glanced at Simon at HR at Priya, probably thinking, wow, big audience, I must have impressed them. We did introductions, kept it friendly. Then I pulled up her deck on the screen. Why don't you walk us through your process on this brief? I said. Where you started, what you referenced, how you got here. She launched into presentation mode easily. She was good at this, confident, charming. For this concept, she said, gesturing to a slide, I wanted to anchor the brand in a sense of quiet authority, then add a jolt of unexpected energy. Quiet authority, jolt of energy. My words. Simon shot me a quick look. I kept my face passive. She moved on, talked about color psychology, layout, wording, hit all the beats I once hit in a room where they'd ultimately decided I was a risk. When she finished, I smiled. It's strong work, I said. Just a few questions. Of course, she said. Have you ever created anything similar to this before? I asked. Even as a pitch or personal project? She hesitated, then smiled. That's a hard question, she said lightly. I mean, all designers have a style, right? I've done decks with similar flows, yeah. Have you used this specific structure or phrasing elsewhere? Priya asked gently. For another client. An interview? Nina shook her head. No, this is new. I mean, I've worked with a friend on similar stuff years ago, but that was just casual. Nothing official. My pulse quickened. A friend? HR asked. Designer? Yeah, Nina said. We used to help each other prep for interviews. She's not in the industry anymore. She said it like I had died. What was her name? I asked. Nina glanced at me, blinked, misreading the question as curiosity. Zoe, she said. Zoe Hartman. Legal clicked her pen quietly. And your friend had nothing to do with the creation of this deck, she asked. No collaboration, no reuse of shared frameworks? Nina smiled. No. Like I said, she's out of the game. I let that sit for a moment, then I clicked to split screen mode. On the left, Nina's deck. On the right, my old one from my Zoe interview. Same structure, same sections. Near identical headlines on several slides. Nina went very still. This, I said calmly, is a deck we received from a candidate last year, a candidate you referred. Silence. Simon spoke next. Can you explain, he asked mildly, why your work looks almost exactly like hers? Nina's face flushed. Well, like I said, we work together, she stammered. We bounced ideas. Designers borrow from each other all the time. It's not like you signed a contract stating this work was completely original and not reused from any other context, Priya said. Her voice never lifted. That includes bounced ideas originally presented as someone else's application. Nina swallowed. This doesn't look like influence, Nina, I said quietly. It looks like replication. She looked at me then, really looked. Eyes narrowing, scanning my face like she'd seen it before. Mara, she said slowly, have we met? My heart thudded in my chest. Yes, I said, we have. I stopped sharing the screen, pulled up another file, an email thread. From her account, to Leitica. About me, her words filled the wall. I feel bad saying this, but since I recommended Zoe, I wanted to let you know she's been very unprofessional lately. She thinks she's above small clients, and I'd hate for that to reflect badly on me as a referral. Nina's eyes went wide. What is this? She whispered. These are the emails you sent about your friend, HR said quietly, from your own account, along with several to other studios Zoe interviewed with. Nina turned to me, realization dawning, a flicker of horror underneath the panic. Mara, she said again, voice thinner. Who are you? I took a breath, felt the weight of the moment, the years, the burning, then I said, my name is Zoe, I said softly. Zoe Hartman. And I'm not out of the game. For a full 3 seconds, nobody moved. Nina's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Then she laughed, or tried to. It came out high and sharp. That's not funny. I'm not joking, I said. Mara is my middle name. Vale is my grandmother's. I came back under a new name because my old one was toxic in every inbox I tried, because of emails like these. I gestured to the wall. She looked from the screen to my face and back again, watching two Zoes overlap in her mind. That's insane, she said. You're lying, you forged that, We verified the email headers, Priya said calmly. The IP addresses, the login locations, they all route back to your devices. They're taken out of context, Nina snapped. I was just explaining. She was spiraling, I was trying to help. I referred her, I was responsible. You wrote, Simon read slowly from the screen, if you want someone easier to work with, I'd be happy to recommend alternatives. He looked up. Then sent your own portfolio. Her composure cracked another inch. You didn't just recommend alternatives, HR said. You positioned yourself as her replacement. That's networking, Nina said desperately. That's what everyone does. Look, I didn't mean to hurt her, You also created a fake Twitter account in her name, I said. My voice was steady. And fake emails to clients using a burner address with your recovery phone number attached. Nina's head snapped toward me. You hacked me. I forwarded any email that mentioned my name from your account, I said. The filter was very busy. She shook her head, shaking now for real. This is insane. You've always been dramatic, Zoe. You're turning this into a witch hunt because you couldn't handle a few rejections. I felt that old, familiar sting, dramatic, too much, overreacting. I let it pass through me and out. This isn't about rejections, I said. It's about you wearing my work and letters like a costume while telling everyone I was unstable. She scoffed. Oh my God, you're literally using a fake name at a job I was trying to get. Who's the unstable one here? Priya spoke up before I could. Miss Alvarez, she said evenly, this meeting is being recorded. We have your work, which appears substantially derivative of a previous candidate's. We have evidence you misrepresented that candidate to multiple employers while simultaneously positioning yourself as an alternative. We have contract language you appear to have violated. Nina went very still. I'd like you to understand something clearly, Priya continued. Lytica is not interested in pursuing a working relationship with you. We will not be moving forward with any contracts now or in the future. Nina swallowed. And because of the intellectual property overlap and potential misrepresentation, Priya added, we'll be flagging this internally. If other studios call for references regarding shared projects, we will answer truthfully. You're going to blacklist me? Nina whispered. No, Simon said quietly. You did that. She turned to me then, eyes glassy. You're really going to let them do this, she said. After everything, we struggled together, Zoe. I held you when you cried about this place. I pushed you to be better. I advocated for you. You advocated for yourself, I said, using me as the cautionary tale. Her face twisted. You're petty, she spat. All this over some emails, over a deck layout. You got the job, didn't you? You win, congratulations. Was that not enough without destroying me? The question hung there, was it? Part of me wanted to say yes. That her losing this one opportunity would satisfy me, but it wasn't about that. It's not about winning, I said quietly. It's about stopping you from doing this to someone else, because you would have. You probably already did. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The room was thick with all the things we weren't saying. You should go, HR said gently. We'll follow up with documentation. Nina stood slowly, like gravity had suddenly doubled. She looked at me one last time. You've changed, she said. Yeah, I said. I stopped letting people set me on fire and call it ambition. She flinched, then she walked out. The door clicked shut behind her, no screaming. No dramatic threats, just a quiet, heavy end. Simon exhaled. You okay? He asked. I stared at the blank screen where her deck had been. I don't know yet, I said honestly, but I'm done being erased. Priya nodded. For what it's worth, she said, I'm glad you came back, under whatever name. I smiled, tired but real. Me too, I said. The fallout wasn't explosive. It was quiet. The way reputations often actually die. I didn't go on some public crusade against Nina. I didn't post threads, didn't expose her on TikTok. I didn't need to. Lytica updated their internal notes. If anyone called about her, they'd say, we do not recommend. If any studio asked me, personally, about Nina from your network, I'd answer honestly, calmly, with documentation if needed. In an industry where trust is currency, that's enough. A month later, I heard through Elise that one of the mid-sized studios that had once rejected me now had questions. They'd received a referral from Nina. They'd also seen my new work as Mara. They wanted to understand what had happened between Zoe and their hiring process. Elise asked if she could share our side. Yes, I said, but keep it factual. She did. They sent a short apology. We regret allowing unverified information to influence our perception. Your work speaks for itself. If you're ever open to future collaboration, our door is open. I wasn't sure I ever would be, but the message still mattered. At Lightica, I settled into the role. I mentored junior designers. I built systems I wished I'd had when I was scrambling as a freelancer. I made it a point to create clear, fair processes for external collaborators, tight contracts, clean attribution, zero ambiguity. One afternoon, HR called me in. "We've been reviewing old files related to your first application," the director said. "Now that we know what happened, we'd like to officially correct your record." She slid a document across the table. Internal note: previous concerns regarding candidates' professionalism were based on falsified communications from a third party. Those notes are rescinded. Employee is considered in good standing. It was symbolic, but symbols matter, especially to the part of me that had watched job after job vanish with no explanation. "Thank you," I said. She hesitated. "Would you ever consider using your original name here?" she asked. "No pressure. Just if you wanted, we'd back it." I thought about it. About Zoe, the name that had been dragged through group chats and DMs and quiet little sidebar warnings. About how it had hurt seeing it become shorthand for difficult. I also thought about Mara, the name I'd chosen, the one I'd built myself under, clean and on my own terms. "Maybe someday," I said. "Right now, I like having both," she smiled. "That makes sense." At home that night, I opened my own little evidence folder. Not the one with Nina's emails. The one titled simply, "Remember." Inside was a single page. A list I'd written months ago when everything was burning. I am not a rumor. I am not one person's version of me. I am not disposable. My work is mine. My name is mine. And if someone tries to steal either, I am allowed to fight back. I added one more line. I can reinvent without disappearing. People think revenge is always loud. Viral posts, public shaming, dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it's a portfolio review in a quiet conference room. Sometimes it's a contract clause. Sometimes it's a woman sitting across from the friend who stole her life and saying, without raising her voice, "No, you don't get to use me anymore." Nina will tell her version of the story, that I was vindictive, that I set her up, that I couldn't handle her success. Maybe some people will believe her. That's fine. Because the people who matter, the ones who hire, the ones who collaborate, the ones who build, saw the receipts, saw which ideas were born where, saw who wore whose skin, and most importantly, I saw it. I stopped doubting my sanity, stopped questioning whether I'd imagined the sabotage. I know what happened now. I know who I am now. Zoe, Mara, both not erased, not replaced. Just still here, designing, choosing who gets access to my work, my name, my time, and quietly making sure that anyone who tries to weaponize my identity learns the same lesson Nina did. You can steal a style. You can steal an opportunity. You can even steal a name for a while. But sooner or later, the truth catches up. And when it does, it doesn't whisper. It shows up with a badge on the door, a title on the org chart, and a calm voice that says,